Welcome back, everyone, to this deep dive. This is the third in our weekly series, giving you that behind-the-scenes look at the Perplexity Fellowship Workshop.
That's right. And this week, we're really jumping into the discussions, the activities, what's actually been happening on the ground.
Exactly. Our mission, as always, is to pull out the key moments, the most insightful bits, so you get a clear picture without feeling buried in information.
Yeah, think of it as your curated summary. We've been watching the fellowship chat all week, and there's a lot happening. AI tools, projects taking shape, tech debates.
Okay, so let's unpack some of that. One thing that kicked things off was the Replit workshop. Sachin Gupta sounded pretty enthusiastic.
He did. He highlighted that $20 discount Replit offered the fellows. The code was AI Fellow S25.
Right, which makes it, pretty low risk for people to just jump in and try it out.
Yeah, it's all about getting hands-on, isn't it?
Yeah.
That discount really helped encourage that initial experimentation.
And they had that real-time demo with Matt Palmer. Sounds like it got, mixed reactions.
It did. Some people, like Fahad, found seeing the live debugging really valuable. See the messy bits.
Which is often where you learn the most. Right.
Totally. But then Sachin Gupta had that memorable analogy, like a well-trained dog suddenly not listening.
Huh. Yeah, I saw that. It kind of highlights how live demos, especially with newer tech, can be unpredictable.
Exactly. But there's a transparency to that.
Yes.
It's not perfectly polished. And seeing how issues are handled live, that's useful in itself.
True. And it wasn't like everyone was instantly sold on Replit overall. Comparisons came up.
Mm-hmm. People mentioned other platforms like Lovable and Cursor, Juan Diaz Yellow, Sash Mohapatra weighed in there.
The feeling was they might be maybe smoother for things like UI design.
Potentially, yeah.
Right.
But Replit got points for how it handles plan presentation and its documentation and diagram generation features.
So different tools, different strengths. It really depends what you need it for.
Precisely. There's no single best platform. You need to know what each one excels at.
Now, something that definitely got flagged up was cost, specifically around Replit's agents.
Right. Rajiv J. Sebastian raised that. The worry about unexpected charges racking up if an agent gets stuck in a loop or something.
Yeah, that's a real concern with these more autonomous tools, isn't it? The runaway agents scenario.
It is. It underlines the need for, careful monitoring and maybe setting spending limits if the platform allows. It's not just the subscription.
A really practical point. And for people just starting, Sachin had some advice.
Yeah, he suggested maybe starting with Python apps on Replit. Apparently, they tend to be a bit more reliable, less prone to weird issues than, say, React apps sometimes are.
Okay, good tip. Let's shift gears a bit. There was a lot of buzz around actually building AI agents.
Definitely. Dan shared an update on his project AI Pulse. It's an AI newsletter.
Yeah, and he said it's now fully automated, running on its own, which is, pretty cool.
That's a fantastic example of a fellow putting this stuff into practice. And he offered to share what he learned, the hurdles and successes.
That's the spirit of the fellowship right there, sharing those real-world experiences.
Absolutely. And it sparked discussion about the tools for building these agentic workflows.
Right. Sachin shared something about using NEN. I saw that LinkedIn post.
He did, but that led to a bit of a debate. Olivier and Pooja Jain pointed out NEN can be complex.
How so?
Well, it's reliance on community nodes, sometimes extensive APIs you need to plug into.
Ah, okay. So more powerful maybe, but steeper learning curve.
Kind of. They contrasted it with tools like Clay or Apollo, which might be easier to start with, but maybe less flexible down the line.
The classic trade-off. Ease of use versus granular control.
Exactly. Depends on your project and your technical comfort level.
And it wasn't just individual projects. Abdulaziz T is thinking bigger.
Yeah, he shared his idea for a generative AI learning platform, specifically for academics.
And he's looking for collaborators, right? Experts from the fellowship to help build it.
He shared the Google Doc link for the project idea. We should probably mention that for anyone listening who might be interested. It's in the outline.
Good idea. That really shows the collaborative potential here.
It does. And the interest in learning more is definitely there. Kofo Veer are asked about a webinar specifically on agentic AI.
Yeah, seems like a hot topic. People want to go deeper.
And resources are being shared too, like that AI agents directory link that popped up. Helps people navigate what's out there.
Okay, so beyond building agents, the conversations also touched on some broader themes. Decentralization, Web3.
Right. Dan brought up decentralized physical infrastructure networks.
That's things like wireless networks or energy grids run on blockchain tech, yeah.
Exactly. And Dan raised questions about the long-term sustainability of these projects. It's a real challenge.
It's not just about the tech working, it's about the economics and keeping it going.
Precisely. But then we got a different angle from Sachin.
Oh, yeah. What
Yeah.
was that?
They made the point that blockchain isn't the only way to decentralize. They mentioned digital public infrastructure, DPI, and digital public services.
Like the stuff happening in India.
Exactly. Suggesting those might be more practical, maybe more scalable approaches in some cases.
Yeah.
It broadens the definition.
That's a really important counterpoint. It's not all about crypto.
No. And Sachin Gupta added some, let's say, skepticism about widespread adoption of any decentralized system.
Why is that?
He flagged the challenges of keeping users motivated and the sheer complexity of maintaining these networks long term. The human factor is huge.
Yeah, technology is one thing. Getting people to use and maintain it consistently is another. Okay, let's talk LLMs.
Always a big topic. There were ongoing comparisons, like ChatGPT Plus versus Perplexity Pro.
Sagar shared some experiences there.
He mentioned running into timeouts and some issues with output quality on Perplexity Pro sometimes. It shows the practical side of choosing your daily tools.
Even the best tools have their quirks or limitations depending on the task.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which ties into Dan's point. He had an interesting thought about the future.
Go on.
He suggested that as LLMs get more common, maybe even run locally on our own devices, the real value might shift
Shift where?
towards the application layer. Like, it's less about the specific underlying model and more about the clever things you build with it.
Interesting. So the innovation moves up the stack, so to speak.
That's the idea. And speaking of understanding the models, Anmol Shantaram shared something interesting.
What was that?
A LinkedIn post about a new periodic table for AI models launched by MIT, Google, and Microsoft.
A periodic table. Wow. That sounds like it could be really helpful for bringing some order to the chaos.
It could be. Trying to categorize and make sense of this rapidly growing landscape, it's a powerful analogy.
Definitely needed. And the performance versus cost discussion kept going too.
Yeah, Olivier and Anmol both stressed that the best model really depends on what you're using it for.
No single winner. It's task specific.
Exactly. Reasoning, creativity, cost efficiency. They all have different strengths.
Fellows were also trying out tools for making presentations like GenSpark and Gamma.
Ah, yes. Luca had some thoughts on those. He felt Gamma might be stronger on the graphic side.
Yeah, visual appeal. While GenSpark maybe had an edge in reasoning and content generation.
Different strengths again. And Luca shared that super prompt, too.
Oh, right. For getting AI into ultra deep thinking mode? Sounds intriguing.
It does. Little tricks and techniques being shared to get more out of the tools.
And speaking of sharing, there was a bit of insider info.
Yeah, Sachin and Yves Pascal Osh let slip that Google AI Studio was offering free access to VO2 video generation.
Nice. Perks of being in the fellowship, getting that early or free access sometimes.
Definitely part of the value, that kind of quiet sharing.
Okay, finally, let's touch on the community itself. Sounds like it's getting more organized.
It seems so. ZohibCon mentioned they're forming virtual working groups.
That sounds like a good move. More focused collaboration.
Yeah, structured peer support.
Yeah.
And general resource sharing as ongoing calendars, FAQs.
And Perry did that cool experiment using NotebookLM.
Oh yeah, processing the chat log to create a sort of podcast about the fellowship's own discussions.
That's brilliant. Using the AI tools to understand the community's interactions. Very meta.
Very meta and very clever. She even shared an unlisted YouTube link.
We also saw people discussing how to build MVPs, minimum viable products.
Lots of tool recommendations flying around there. Replit, Cursor, Windsurf, Prayas, Sash, Sachin, Mandeep, all chipping in.
And plans for more learning. Future webinars.
Yep. Pooja Jain mentioned one coming up on AI agents, and Sar Bluhia requested one on AI for coding.
So the learning definitely continues. And they had that perplexity in action deep dive session too.
Right. Plus sharing relevant stuff from outside those LinkedIn posts on agent workflows, the AI periodic table news.
And even discussing that hoax about AI causing power outages.
Yeah, the one about Spain and Portugal, it got debunked, but it shows the community is engaging critically with news about AI's impact, even the misinformation.
So wrapping up this week, it really sounds like a dynamic time in the fellowship. Lots of ideas, lots of hands-on activity.
Absolutely. You see that constant exchange, debugging Replit, debating decentralization, trying to map out the LLM landscape. Fellows are really engaging with the cutting edge.
And it's not just theory. Projects like Dan's newsletter or Abdulaziz's platform idea show real-world application taking shape.
That's key. And the willingness to share knowledge, resources, troubleshoot together.
Yeah.
That peer learning is just so valuable in a field moving this fast.
We really hope this glimpse inside has given you listening some useful nuggets, maybe sparked some ideas.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting space, and the fellowship seems like a real hub for that excitement and learning.
Can't wait for what we have in store for next week.